Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful and, let's be honest, controversial thesis from an author who goes by Dr. Roots. It's called One God, One Truth, One Destiny, and wow, does it lay out a comprehensive worldview on pretty much everything: faith, family, and the very fabric of society.
Right out of the gate, the author comes in with this incredibly strong declaration. This isn't just some fluffy intro. It's a real statement of intent. He's basically telling you, I'm not going to water this down to make it more palatable. It sets the tone for everything that follows. So who is the person behind this? To really get the thesis, you gotta understand his background. We're talking about a Liberian Civil War survivor, a Pan-African scholar, and a high-level expert in things like cybersecurity and AI. It's this wild mix of experiences, from the trauma of war to designing complex digital systems, that really shapes every single argument he makes. Okay, so here's our roadmap for breaking this all down. We're going to start with his main thesis and this idea of one God. Then we'll get into his really unique take on Rastafari and what he calls the divine order of the family. And finally, we'll look at this modern system he labels Babylon and the solution he's proposing. All right, let's jump right into the heart of it. The author's entire worldview is built on 7 key points, or assertions. Think of these as the foundational pillars that hold up everything else he argues. So the whole thing really starts here. He argues for one single God, and because of that, good and evil aren't subjective, they're objective realities. From that point, he claims that the traditional family unit isn't just a good idea, it's the only blueprint for a society that actually works, which is a direct shot at what he considers modern deception. Literally everything in this treatise flows from one single, incredibly powerful idea: the absolute oneness of God. For this author, this isn't just, one belief among many. It's like the source code for all truth. And to back this up, he goes right to scripture, pointing to the Shema from Deuteronomy. His argument is that this isn't just a statement for a single religion. He sees it as this universal declaration about a single, unified, divine intelligence that's running the entire show. And he builds on that, suggesting that all the different names for God you see across different cultures, Yahweh, Allah, Jah, Olodumare, they're not talking about different gods. He says they are just different languages and cultures trying to describe their own encounter with the exact same creator. Now, this whole one God, many names concept leads him straight to one of his most distinct arguments: his claim about where Rastafarianism fits into the picture of Christianity. So he throws out this really provocative question. In his view, Rastafari isn't some newfangled religion. No, he argues it's actually the restoration of original Christianity, one that successfully resisted being corrupted and co-opted by colonial powers. And to show you what he means, he actually quotes Bob Marley. He sees these lyrics as a clear critique of what he calls the oppressive systems of Babylon, which, in his view, included the colonial church using education not to free minds, but to control them. And then he brings it back to the Bible, pointing to verses like this one from Amos. His point is that the Rastafari focus on justice, on righteousness here and now, isn't some modern political idea. He says it's a return to a fundamental biblical command that he believes a lot of institutional churches have just forgotten. Okay, let's pivot to the family, because for this author, the family unit isn't just a personal lifestyle choice. He presents it as the fundamental blueprint for a healthy society, one that was designed with a very specific divine order. So here's the core of his argument on the family: divinely assigned roles. Now, he really stresses that these roles are meant to be complementary, not a hierarchy of power. He lays it out like this: the man's role is provider, protector, and priest of the home. The woman's role is helper, homemaker, and queen of that same home. And check this out. To really drive home his point about the woman's role, he dives deep into the Hebrew word ezer, which is usually translated as helper. He makes a critical point. That same word is used over and over in the Old Testament to describe God. So for him, that's proof that helper doesn't mean weak or secondary. It means a partner with vital, life-saving strength. Okay, so now that he's laid all that groundwork, the author identifies the antagonist in his story. It's a corrupting modern system that he believes stands in total opposition to this divine order, a system he calls Babylon. So what exactly is Babylon? Well, it's not a place on a map. The author defines it as any human system, whether it's political, cultural, or ideological, that elevates itself above God and says, no, you follow my authority. And this is where he applies that definition to the modern day. He argues that contemporary ideological movements around gender and sexuality are a primary example of this Babylonian deception. He presents this as an ideological challenge to what he's already defined as the divine blueprint for the family.
And of course, he goes to scripture to support this. He presents verses like this passage from Romans as, in his view, clear and direct divine commentary on human nature and sexuality, arguing that they set a standard that doesn't change with cultural trends. All right, so if Babylon is the problem, what's the solution? Well, after outlining the threat, the author presents his answer, what he sees as the direct antidote to all of Babylon's influence.
And this part is absolutely crucial. His proposed solution isn't political, it's domestic. He's not saying the answer is to win elections, he's saying the answer is to restore the godly home. He frames the family as the original church, the first school, and the most basic fundamental building block of all civilization.
And here it is. This slide brings the entire argument full circle. You can see how it all connects. It starts with that single assertion, there is one God, and logically flows all the way to the final claim that the godly family is the most powerful institution on earth and the ultimate defense against the forces of Babylon. And that brings us to the end of our explainer on the Dr. Roots thesis. It leaves us with one final, pretty heavy question to think about. By framing the family, not the government, not the economy, not anything else, as the most important institution in society, what are the real-world implications of that kind of blueprint? It's a profound idea that challenges how we think about structuring our lives and our world.